They call it media availability. They call it a press conference. If you are even remotely familiar with the Super Bowl, it's so much more than that.
As fast we trust, baby! Let's go, KC! As fast we trust!
Hear you, Chris Jones, in Spags We Trust. Like we said after the conference championship games, if there is one show in the NFL universe that trusts in Steve Spagnuolo, let it be this one. I love it, giving the Kansas City Chiefs defensive coordinator some well-deserved shine. Hi there. Welcome into the NFL on Fox podcast presented by Verizon. I am Dave Helman, and it is day 2 of Super Bowl week. We have jumped so far off of our regular schedule. It's the Super Bowl. We're bringing you content every single day. Like I keep saying, you're going to want to tune in for all of it. If you're not subscribed on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, if you haven't found our YouTube channel, deviate from what you're doing. Go subscribe to that. Click the little button. Make sure you're on schedule to get all of our shows, all of our updates, loaded Super Bowl week. We got shows coming to you every single day. We are going to make sure you are ready for this game between the Chiefs and the 49ers. And the circus part, well, the whole week is a circus, let's be fair. But the hoopla, the craziest part is the beginning. Monday night is opening night on Super Bowl week. They call it media availability. They call it a press conference. If you are even remotely familiar with the Super Bowl, it's so much more than that. The Chiefs and the 49ers talk to the media on national TV. Let that sink in. Only the NFL could turn this into a nationally televised event. Hundreds and hundreds of reporters. And we're going to do a podcast to break the whole thing down. And fortunately for us, we're not just limited to TV and sound bites posted to social media. We actually have boots on the ground in Las Vegas. Our two Fox Sports writers, Ben Arthur and Ralph Vacchiano, were on hand for the proceedings at opening night. Had a chance to catch up with both of them. We're going to start the way the night started. It started with the defending champs, the AFC champ Kansas City Chiefs, went to Allegiant Stadium first for their first taste of the frenzy that is opening night. Had a chance to catch up with Ben Arthur about the sights and sounds from the Chiefs press availability.
And it's been an absolute... Y'all are firing me up. Making me want to play right now, baby. I love the boos more than I love the cheers, baby. Keep them coming, Niners gang. Keep them coming.
All right, Ben, let's start this thing at the end, technically after the Chiefs media availability. It sounds like they got a very healthy chorus of boos from the San Francisco part of this opening night crowd. What were the vibes there as maybe the Chiefs got a little added motivation?
Yeah, it definitely seemed like the Chiefs were kind of getting the brunt of the boos. Like whenever, like, who was it? Like Kelsey, Travis Kelsey, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Chris Jones, whenever they were speaking, like a loud chorus of boos. And then whenever it was George Kittle or Christian McCaffrey who got MVP chance, or Kyle Shanahan, Brock Purdy, a lot of cheers. And just for context, that may have a little bit to do with scheduling here at Allegiant Stadium. So the Chiefs already had their opening night media availability, and the San Francisco 49ers are going later. And so it's possible that a lot of the Chiefs fans could have maybe already begun leaving, and then it was really the 49ers fans pouring in. But it definitely seemed like heavy 49ers faithful here, at least at this portion of the night. So I thought that was really fascinating, and that actually happened just before I got on this call with you. So yeah, if anything, this is more motivation for the Chiefs, who definitely feel like underdogs. And I think when this Chiefs team, I think that's really been a theme throughout this season, feeling like underdogs. If anything, this is more fuel for them. That's kind of my gut reaction to that.
It reminds me of something Chris Jones said when he was talking to y'all during this media availability. Is basically, I don't know when we became so hated. It feels like the Chiefs have kind of lived long enough to see themselves become the villains. But that does seem like the case here. I have a feeling the Chiefs aren't going to have a hard time using that as motivation heading into this game.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of another thing added to the list, right? I mean, we saw the way they played this season. We saw the offensive struggles. We saw a lot of kind of like criticism just in the media, national media at large, about kind of how this team isn't equipped to get to this point. And so to have kind of what happened tonight with all the booing, I think it just kind of gets added to the folder for these Chiefs. And I think this year we've seen them kind of channel a different kind of energy. I mean, in previous years, everyone expected them to kind of be at this point. And I think with this just kind of being a different iteration of the Chiefs and them being defensive led, just kind of being embodied by having that chip, I think this is just kind of what's happened tonight is just kind of more fuel to them. So it's going to be fascinating to see kind of how that plays out on the game on Sunday.
Speaking of, and this was another thing that I was really interested in, from the Chiefs media availability, was having a chance to listen to Steve Spagnuolo talk to reporters. He actually did say, hey, I'd like to have another shot at a head coaching opportunity, but getting to all these Super Bowls year after year, that's not too bad either. I wonder what a stage like this can be as a springboard if Steve Spagnuolo wants another head coaching opportunity. Beating an offense that's this explosive and this efficient be a hell of a thing to add to an already impressive resume.
Yeah, it would do wonders for him. And obviously the NFL has gone a lot younger, right? We're seeing kind of like the hot shot, offensive play callers, or even the former players who are maybe defensive coordinators in their 30s, like whether it's a D'Amico Ryans or that type, or even McDonald's, who just got hired by the Seahawks, who's the Ravens DC. We've seen a lot of younger guys get hired now, but I think if Spagnuolo can put together another dominant performance, I mean, I think you have to start maybe thinking about him for the 2025 cycle. And that's something I actually wanted to bring up, Dave, like how the Chiefs players talked about Spags today. That was one of the things that maybe stood out the most. Like Trent McDuffie, I was talking with him, and he was like, he definitely has like a father figure type of presence. Chris Jones was saying how this defense, led by Spags, has a kind of a sense of brotherhood that he's never had in the NFL. He's also talked about how like he goes to chapel or something like that with Spags on Saturdays. It's been another way for them to bond. So I think the connectiveness of this defense is really special, something we haven't seen, and we know they've been playing at a high level, but how close they are has really stood out to me, and just with talking to folks on the floor behind me, and yeah, that all starts with Spags. Like, this is a defensive-led team, and it starts with him.
It's incredible. I mean, it like you said, it's been the story of their season. If they manage to hold this 49ers offense down enough to win this game, it's crazy to think that could be the story more so than the headliners like Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce on the offensive side of the ball. Although I did think it was interesting, there's going to be a lot of retirement speculation swirling around Travis Kelce. Another big nugget that came out of this media availability, Travis Kelce saying, I can't imagine not doing this as long as I'm able. So without overreacting too much, sounds like Patrick Mahomes is going to have his number one option there beyond this game.
Yeah, no, it does. And I think we were talking about this a couple of days ago, Dave, like how I just don't see a situation where Kelce calls it quits. I mean, he's still playing at a really high level. We obviously know that this regular season hasn't been up to his standard, and people are kind of saying, oh, he kind of looks a step slower, kind of getting close to his mid-30s. But the way he's turned it on the end of the season after Christmas, and in particular in the playoffs, these first three games, I mean, he still looks like he has that dog in him. Like, he really still looks like he has a lot left in the tank, and that connection that he has with Patrick Mahomes is still as strong as ever. And so regardless of maybe what happens in this game on Sunday, I can see them kind of running it back. Like, I just don't see Kelce being in a position to where, he wants to hang it up. Like, I think he still has a lot left in the tank. He's still one of the top three tight ends in the league. And so yeah, what he said today on the floor kind of affirmed like what I believed heading into this week.
So those feel like the headlines coming out of the Chiefs half of this, but I mean, this is an overwhelming experience. You know, they introduced these teams like boxers, and there's Lord knows how many members of the media there for such a crazy experience. Anything else in particular stand out to you? It doesn't even have to be some major storyline, but just the sights and sounds of this. What was your favorite part of it?
Yeah, I mean, just the biggest thing, like being the fans, like all the energy that's here. Like yeah, I think you guys can kind of hear it behind me, but this is like a great crowd. The NFL has really done like a great job in terms of like marketing Super Bowl week and whatnot. But there are a lot of fans of both teams, obviously, and they've gotten really engaged just throughout the night, from the players coming out through the tunnel to go to their podiums to like the joint team stuff that happened not too long ago. I think the energy, the vibes is definitely like the biggest thing. I think with the Super Bowl media availability for opening night, a lot of the times the players are kind of getting the same questions over and over again, and a lot of fan type questions like what's your favorite food, what's on your playlist, what music are you listening to? So there was a lot of that too. But that happens kind of every Super Bowl. But I would say, just from the fan experience perspective, and this being my first one, I think that really stood out to me.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's crazy. I think the NFL, the press conference to start the week has become on par with some sports' actual championship events. That's barely an exaggeration. It's absolutely crazy. Ben Arthur, you're going to be in Vegas for us all this week. If you're not already paying attention, please go find what he's writing for us on foxsports.com, on the Fox Sports app. We're going to have coverage all week long. We'll have Ben back on the pod as well. Ben, I appreciate it so much, man. Thanks as always.
Appreciate it, Dave. Thank you.
You know, for a minute there, it felt like we were set up for a heavyweight bout, Vegas style, right there at Allegiant Stadium. The booing at the end of the Chiefs session led in to the 49ers media session. Felt like we had a real event on our hands. And I'm not going to call it boring, but a much more understated, much more, it felt like business-like approach from the San Francisco 49ers side of things. Leave it to Brock Purdy, the youngest guy, the guy that everybody thinks isn't supposed to be here, to sort of just answer everything the right way. A very, like I said, understated approach from the 49ers as they seek to win their first Super Bowl since the 1994 season. Ralph Vacchiano was on hand to take in everything from the 49ers session, what Brock Purdy had to say, Kyle Shanahan as well. Still plenty of interesting things to glean from maybe a slightly less raucous 49ers press availability.
Well, it's funny to hear Jed say that, because it wasn't the smartest moment I've ever had. I mean, when an owner comes in after training camp practices and is like, hey, how's the quarterback? And what he means is the starter or the second. And you in irritation go, I don't know, but our third guy's the best. Like, that's not what he wants to hear. So that's why he remembers it very strong. But that was just more, Brock was so good right away with every rep he got. He was always the same.
All right, Ralph, you know, we heard the other side of this story from 49ers CEO Jed York about a week ago. And here at opening night, we get Kyle Shanahan's side of the story that apparently he thought Brock Purdy was their best quarterback this entire time.
Yeah, I mean, he loves everything about Brock Purdy. He says he loves him from the absolute start. He praises him constantly. He thinks he's one of the best stories that the NFL has, and should be right up there with all the rest of the elite quarterbacks. I don't think it's any surprise. Maybe it's a little bit revisionist history. It's hard to tell, but Kyle Shanahan insists that Brock Purdy is his guy for a reason. It's not a happy accident. He just thinks he's that talented and that good. Sure, he wants to pump up his guy a little bit too. In heading into his biggest game, where a lot of people don't think he belongs on the same field with Patrick Mahomes, but obviously Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers do.
It's the perfect segue because, and look, we were talking about this before we started recording, is these media nights have become, it's such a circus. You got celebrities there, you got all kinds of, it's such a big moment. And obviously Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and a lot of members of the Kansas City Chiefs have been through this before. Brock Purdy has not, and yet he seemed to handle the whole thing just with this air of cool and casual. I see a lot of people bring up Joe Montana these days when they talk about him, and that's kind of what it reminded me of. Is he looked really unflappable dealing with a very stressful environment, which I guess at this point shouldn't be a surprise.
Yeah, it shouldn't be. I mean, to be a quarterback who gets his team to this point, you sort of have to have ice in your veins and not be phased by the stuff around you. He's obviously been in big games, been in big situations. I'm sure there was a little part of him that looked around, saw the stadium was half full. The whole lower bowl was filled just to get a glimpse of these guys and listen to them talk. That's unusual. So I'm sure part of him was looking around thinking that this is obviously something different. I'm sure that, maybe there were a little bit of nerves and maybe that'll creep in as you get closer to the game. But, if he was a guy who could be rattled, he probably wouldn't have gotten this far. They probably wouldn't be riding him all the way to the Super Bowl. So, it's just part of who he is, what's in his DNA.
Along those same lines, what's your impression of the mindset of this 49ers team? And I don't want to suggest that obviously the Chiefs want to win this game. I think the Chiefs understand the magnitude or the implication of if they manage to go back to back and what that means. But you think about the guys on this San Francisco team from Kyle Shanahan on down who have had these missed opportunities. It seems like maybe there's a little bit of an edge in their demeanor knowing that they have a chance to end this championship drought for the 49ers.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's an edge or not, because I think the Chiefs have a pretty good attitude about this too, but there's definitely a business sense with the 49ers, even though, they haven't experienced it as much as the Chiefs has. They're acting like a team that's been there before. Even Brock Purdy, though he hasn't been, is sort of acting that part. And I think that comes right from the coach who, has been there a couple of times, failed a couple of times, knows how fleeting it is. Talked to George Kittle about that, about how, the last time they were there, he came up short. He sat on the sidelines saying to himself, I will get back here. And he knows that it took a lot longer than he expected. So they understand that, this is not an opportunity that's going to come around a lot. So they want to make sure they're focused and doing all the right things. And that's good. There are teams that do show up sometimes and really have an attitude of, I don't know, they're a little too loose or a little bit too excited to be here. I did not get that sense at all from the 49ers.
I'm glad you mentioned Kittle. On a team full of personality, there might not be a better quote on the 49ers roster than George Kittle. Saw him talking about how Nick Bosa's got bigger quads than his torso, talking about who's the better tight end between him and Travis Kelce. What kind of gems did we get from George Kittle at this media opportunity here?
Oh, he was all over the map. He is such a great personality, so comfortable, whether it's talking about the WWE or his love of soccer. There's a lot of kid reporters that are out here for Nickelodeon and other outlets, and he's so charming with them too. It's actually kind of a shame because he's so good and such a good media personality, but the crowd around him was about half the size as it was for Travis Kelce, who's obviously good in his own right, but much, much bigger celebrity. So that was kind of interesting to see. But George Kittle's a charmer and had nothing but good things to say about Travis Kelce. Obviously, he idolized him, thinks the world of him, and isn't jealous of him in the least, even though there's no doubt that Kelce's the bigger star here.
Well, unfortunately for George Kittle, he doesn't have any details about the new Taylor Swift album, right?
That is true.
I'm curious, another guy that I want to make sure we mention, and we talked about this in the preview episode where we talked about the storylines. One guy that stood out to me for this 49ers team was Charvarius Ward, who was obviously a member of the Kansas City Chiefs last time we did this. I just want to shout out his honesty. And I mean, the guy just seems like a very straightforward quote talking about, yeah, I mean, I enjoyed my time with the Chiefs, but the 49ers offered me the bag and you've got to take that opportunity when you can get it. No hard feelings with the Kansas City Chiefs, obviously, but has a chance to win a Super Bowl after taking care of himself personally as well.
Yeah, there's no bad blood there. There's no looking for revenge or any kind of storyline like that. It's almost sounded like it's just a coincidence that he's here playing against his old team. So, he's another one. This is a very mature 49ers team. They seem to have the right attitude, the right answers for just about everything. They're not going to, certainly not going to create any headlines. I bounced around to probably a dozen different guys, and not a lot jumps out that you think is going to, make the old back pages of the papers, or the front, the top line of a digital site or something like that. They're boring, and they're about business, and they're about football, and there's some good stories there, but they have one purpose in mind, and they're not going to let anything distract them.
I think that's a really good point, and it's very interesting to me because, like, Kyle Shanahan obviously looking for his first championship. All of these veterans on the 49ers lost this game 4 years ago, and even the newcomers like Purdy, and we forget Christian McCaffrey has never played in a game of this magnitude. Like, but there's this quiet confidence on the 49ers that suggests that they, like the Chiefs, have won a couple of these things, even though they haven't. Where do you think that comes from?
I think it comes from the fact that they're not a stranger to big games. This is a team that has been incredibly successful the last 3 years, been to the NFC Championship 3 years in a row. And I realize that's not the Super Bowl. And until you get to the Super Bowl, as a player or a coach, you can't even realize that that's not the Super Bowl. It's another magnitude of, just excitement and intensity and attention and all of that. But it's not like they came out of nowhere. They're used to big games that matter a lot. They've lost some big games. They understand how much that hurts. And it does mature the team. Most of this team has at least that championship game experience, and all the key players have that championship game experience. And I think that's big. It's not completely preparing them for this, but it comes pretty close.
I think that's my biggest takeaway is in terms of being ready for the magnitude of this spotlight and the circus that comes with playing this game. There are plenty of other great teams in the NFL. I don't know if there are any others that are as well suited for this as the Chiefs and the 49ers. Ralph, you're going to be in Vegas for the rest of the week. If you're not aware, like we said earlier, please take a look at what he's putting out for us on foxsports.com, on the Fox Sports app. We're going to have content throughout the week for Super Bowl 58. Ralph, as always, thanks again, my man.
My pleasure, Dave. Anytime.
Thanks to Ben and Ralph for helping me cover we'll call it the theme of opening night. But look, there's 53 guys on each team, and all of them have microphones in their face. So it's impossible to cover every single aspect of every soundbite that comes out of this crazy night. But we're going to summarize it all for you on your, on your commute or your walk or whatever it is you're doing while you're with us today. And we're going to give you our 5 favorite soundbites from Super Bowl opening night before we move on to the matchups and the X's and O's. Take you through the 5 best things, or our 5 favorite things anyway, that got said between the Chiefs and the Niners. Starting out, where else would we start out other than Taylor Swift? Because of course, Travis Kelce was going to be asked about her the night after she won Album of the Year at the Grammys.
She's unbelievable. She's rewriting the history books herself. I told her I'll have to hold up my end of the bargain and come home with some hardware too.
We throw around the phrase power couple a lot, but it's hard to beat this. Taylor Swift's album Midnights wins her 4th Album of the Year Grammy on Sunday night, setting music industry history. And oh, by the way, Travis Kelce, he already beat out Jerry Rice for the most playoff receptions in NFL history earlier this month, and he's going for his 3rd Super Bowl championship this coming weekend, which is a day after she plays a sold-out show in Tokyo. Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. But no disrespect to Travis, I care a lot less about all of that and a lot more about Taylor Swift dropping the track list for her new album. She announces the new album, The Tortured Poets Department, on Sunday. And then while Travis is talking, or right after he's talking, she drops the track list and he's off the podium before we can ask him about it. I'm sure he wouldn't give us any details anyway, but Travis, who is the smallest man that ever lived? Why is there a song about Florida? What happened in Florida? I need answers. And even if he wouldn't have answered, it would have been awfully fun to have Travis Kelce on the microphone while his girlfriend's track list dropped on social media. Chalk it up to bad timing, or knowing Taylor Swift, chalk it up to her devious mindset, knowing exactly when to do it right after he got done talking to the media. Okay, This concludes the Swifty portion of the show. I apologize if you're not one. It had to be addressed. Let's keep it moving, although we're going to stay with the tight end position because the next best sound clip I heard was from Travis Kelce's San Francisco counterpart, George Kittle, who was asked about their friendship.
Travis is a guy who I watched his film when I was in college. When I ended up trading jerseys with him, it was one of the coolest moments ever. When he said what's up to me in 2018, my second year, and we played the Chiefs, I was kind of, like, wow, this is one of the coolest days of my life. And so I'm a huge fan of Travis Kelce, and the fact that I've been able to become friends with him, peers with him, run tight end U with him, just get to know him. It's been awesome. And for someone I've looked up to his game, watched so much of his film, anything that he says nice about you, it feels great. He's a fantastic football player. He's probably a first ballot Hall of Famer. So like anything that you can get from Travis Kelce, it's awesome. And the fact, you're friends too, it makes it a little bit sweeter as well.
Stuff like this just reminds you of how quickly time moves in the NFL. We think of George Kittle and Travis Kelce as being of the same generation, and they are. They're playing against each other in a Super Bowl. They're friends for several years at this point. Tight End U is their off-season camp that always gets such great content in the summer. But consider Travis Kelce was already a two-time All-Pro when George Kittle got drafted. It's easy to forget. He had been in the league for 4 years when George Kittle was an unknown fifth-round pick out of Iowa to the 49ers, not even close to being a superstar. And it's easy to forget. It feels like George Kittle's been an All-Pro forever because he was All-Pro his second year in the league. But it's easy to lose track of these timelines and think, holy cow, when you came into the league, you looked up to Travis Kelce as a college player. When you were working on your craft at Iowa, he was probably a guy whose game you paid attention to. And now you're buddies going against each other in the Super Bowl. I don't know. I just think it's cool. And it's easy to lose track of that when these guys have been doing their thing for as long as they have. All right. It's the Super Bowl. Of course, we're going to talk a little bit of legacy. Patrick Mahomes had a lot of stuff to say, as you might expect from the best player in this game. But nothing was more interesting, in my opinion, than asked about the legacy he's trying to chase, none other than Tom Brady. He's going for his third championship already. Long way to go until he gets to 7 championships, as Tom Brady has, which is what Patrick discussed.
I mean, I'm not even close to halfway, so I haven't put a lot of thought into it. I mean, your goal is to be the best player that you can be. I know I'm blessed to be around a lot of great players around me. And so right now it's doing whatever I can to beat a great 49ers team and trying to get that third ring. And then if you ask me that question in like 15 years, and I'll see if I can get close to 7, but 7 seems like a long ways away still.
I wanted to highlight this for one particular reason. And look, nobody's more impressed by Patrick Mahomes than me, I think. I mean, what he's done, I put him on the Mount Rushmore of NFL quarterbacks today at the age of 28. Win or lose against the 49ers, I put him there. Multiple MVPs, multiple championships. His resume stacks up with just about everybody other than Brady, Manning, Montana. Guess you could throw Terry Bradshaw in there as well. The point is, it's not a long list of guys who have accomplished more than him already. But the interesting thing is, for as much as we take it for granted, it's easy to sit here and say 4 Super Bowl appearances in 5 years for the Chiefs. They're going to be doing this forever. They're going to be doing this for the rest of Patrick Mahomes' career. And maybe they will, but you certainly can't take it for granted. And nobody proves that point better than Tom Brady. Tom Brady had 3 championships at the age of 27. It took him, after he won the Super Bowl in 2004, his third Super Bowl in the first 4 years of his career, it took him another decade to get the next one. There were the 2 upset losses to the New York Giants, the failed experiments, the failed undefeated season. It wasn't until 2014 that he got that next championship, and then the Patriots went on another run in the end of his career. My only point is, and I think that that's a theme for this week, is people are maybe tired of seeing Mahomes and the Chiefs succeed. They're tired of seeing them on this stage. And as inevitable as they feel right now, you never know how long that's going to last. So don't take Patrick Mahomes for granted. I know he's not doing that. And I hope fans of the game aren't doing that either, because I assume he's got several more championships left in him. But even for a guy as talented as him, you never know. You never know if you're going to get the next one, or you never know how long you're going to have to wait. I think that's worth keeping in mind. With all of that serious legacy talk out of the way, he did have one more soundbite that I personally as a Huskier fella, take issue with?
Another Super Bowl for sure. I have a six pack. It's just under the dad bod. So it's just, if you feel, I mean, there might be some skin there, but then underneath that, the six pack's there. You just got to get real close and you got to squint a little bit, and I think you'll see it.
For context, Pat was asked if he'd rather have another Super Bowl ring or six-pack abs. And that is because of the photo of him going around after the win against Baltimore, standing in the locker room, looking like a pretty normal guy. But you know what, Patrick, stop it. Stop it. We're not calling Patrick Mahomes a dad bod. Maybe Patrick Mahomes in a league full of super freaks, sure, he's got a more average build, but I can show you a dad bod, and it's not Patrick Mahomes. So, like I said, let us Huskier guys have our wins where we can get them, because dad bods are in. Patrick Mahomes doesn't have a dad bod, so this is irrelevant. I personally take offense to it. Let us have our thing. Leave the dad bods to the guys who actually have them. But I do appreciate it, Patrick. All right, wrapping this up, maybe the biggest personality in a night filled with them. I just don't know if there's a bigger one than George Kittle. We already heard from him once, but we're going to wrap this up with a soundbite that is so ridiculous that I don't know how many NFL players could actually invoke Harry Potter as accurately as George Kittle did here when he was asked to sort different members of the 49ers into the 4 houses of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Yeah, that is a sentence I just said. Listen to George Kittle.
I feel like Shanahan would be a Ravenclaw, McCaffrey. Like, I feel like we have the character to all be in Gryffindor, but I don't want to say that because that's just boring. I'd put Christian in Slytherin because he just kind of got that, like, he knows a lot of people. Oh, it's my tight ends. What's up, Dwelly? Dwelly, what house would you put Bosa in Harry Potter? Harry Potter, what house is Bosa? I put Shanahan in Ravenclaw. Yeah, I put McCaffrey in Slytherin, too. Bosa's Gryffindor. Brock Purdy, Hufflepuff.
Okay, let's be blunt. Breaking people down into Harry Potter houses is cliche at this point. I mean, the books have been out forever. The movies have also been out forever. We've done this to death. I get it. But number one, hearing an NFL player, a jock, if you will, do it so flawlessly and so accurately, which I'm going to get to, number one, that's impressive. And number two, George Kittle doing it on the fly in front of dozens, if not hundreds of strangers, also incredibly impressive. Because I do think he nailed it to a T, and it made me realize the 49ers are a little bit of an allegory for Hogwarts, or vice versa, however you want to phrase it. But think about the way that story works if you're familiar with Harry Potter. And I'm just going to assume most people listening are at least familiar. But think about it. Slytherin and Gryffindor are like the 2 main character houses, the good guys and the bad guys, the villainous personalities and the heroic ones. They take up all of the oxygen in that world with their arguments and their fights and their attempts to be the biggest and the best in the school. Same thing with the 49ers, mentioning McCaffrey, Bosa, Kittle himself. But then off to the periphery, you got a Ravenclaw, the nerdy, aloof, knowledgeable, educated house. That's Kyle Shanahan running the whole show. Beautifully stated, George Kittle. And then while all this chaos is going on, while all these other 3 houses, again, are taking up all of the pages, all of the narrative is driven by these 3, off in the corner, it's all pulled together and kept running by the unassuming Hufflepuffs, the house that is marked by friendliness, kindness, maybe an unassuming nature, and a propensity for hard work. Sound like anybody you know? Yeah, Brock Purdy. Maybe it's easy to write the guy off, but it all works because of that one affable personality in the middle of it. And watching all of this play out on opening night, I thought it was really apt. Mr. Irrelevant in the middle of it, kind, maybe to a fault, completely unbothered, and ready to get to work. Am I reading too deep into a joke answer by George Kittle? Absolutely I am. Am I a huge dork? Totally. But that's kind of the theme for opening night, is the knowledge that you can glean from the absurdity of it all. And I appreciate George Kittle for the thought exercise. Brock Purdy, the best Hufflepuff you know. All right. I think that does it for this show. But like I said, there's so much more content coming your way. We've actually got a hybrid episode coming up tomorrow. I'm going to be joined by the guys from Bear Bets to get into the gambling aspect of all of this. It's a game in Las Vegas. Of course, we're going to break all of that down. We got plenty of matchup previews coming. We're going to break down every aspect of this game between now and Friday. I can't wait. If you haven't already, like I said, go find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, subscribe to the YouTube channel, wherever you prefer to get your podcasts, wherever you get your NFL news and content, you can find us there. I will be with you all week leading up to the game. And of course, we're going to have rapid reaction from Super Bowl 58. All that to come. So you don't even have to wait a couple days. We will be back tomorrow. Until then, catch y'all next time.